Resident Evil is one of the longest running franchises that's been just entirely awesome. As long as you take 6 out. Non-apologetic news. Everyone knows the new release, the remake of Resident Evil 4 just dropped. But I want to take a step back. I want to talk about the original Resident Evil 4 and the impact it had on the gaming industry that many may not be aware of. I was about 19 years old when that game came out, right? And I remember I was living with this dude named Crack, and he was a gamer, but he also drank a lot and didn't want to play the game when he was drinking. So he preferred it where I would play it, and then he'd just hang out with his beer and be like, you missed that shiny over there, or, you know, buy this upgrade or this or that. I wanted to talk about that game because I think it changed everything.
Oh, yeah. Resident Evil 4 was a game changer for the series.
Yeah, not even for the series, for action games, period. Because if memory serves, now I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone will let me know. But I think that was the first time we got the over-the-shoulder view that is still the traditional standard view of today.
Yeah.
You know, looking right over you where you're kind of looking down the gun. You know, they were the first to do that. Because if you remember before that, Resident Evil had the tank controls. So it was literally, for those who haven't played it, if you want to move like to the right, you have to completely move your body to the right. It was like there was a 4-access point. So if something pops up and you want to run away from it, you got to
have to turn around
and then take off running. There was no continuous 360 movement. You know, it just didn't exist then. Everyone hated the tank controls. However, I always thought if you play on it for like 15 minutes, you just get used to it.
Yeah.
It was just part of Resident Evil. I can remember so much of my childhood spent playing Code Veronica. You know, that's the one that really stuck out to me.
That's the only one I haven't completed.
It is so good. But there's like optional bosses, meaning like if you do your prep, you can destroy one of the biggest bosses without ever fighting. It's like super cool stuff. I don't remember much else from it. And like they've been talking about redoing Resident Evil 4 for a long time. So I probably haven't played that game in like a decade. And I think it was like the first big AAA, huge money survival horror as well. And then it showed people that you can put money in and get your money back.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that scene? You know, I haven't played the new one yet. I'm sure it's in there. But do you remember the cabin? Like where you have some long-haired dude with you? And then I don't think there's zombies in that game, but whatever they are. They're coming in from the top floor and the bottom floor. And it goes on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Just nonstop. I can't remember the character's name. I know you play as Leon.
Yeah, some
suave Hispanic fella.
He was the sex appeal.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have trouble getting through that spot?
Oh, yeah.
I can remember on one
until I learned, like, hey, you just got to do this and it'll stop on its own after a certain time.
Is it a time or is it an amount of enemies killed?
I think it's just a certain amount of time. You just keep going. And I thought it would never end. And then,
like, just trying to figure out how to manage, not run out of inventory, because they have those, we'll call them zombies, but I know they're not in that game, but like where you shoot them and their head will explode and then this big like root type monster like develops out of it, and that thing takes like 6 shotgun pumps to take down.
Like Los Illuminatus or something like that.
Yeah, it's a cult. The whole thing's a cult if memory serves. The fixed camera view was an issue though the last time I did go back and try to play it, because you weren't able to look around. You know what I mean? Like you look where the game wants you to look as far as, it's relating to the direction you're facing. I've also heard on the remake, they're adding side quests to the game. They're adding more boss fights. I think the game's just going to be more to it than the original had, so that people are surprised, even people like me who have played the Resident Evil 4 like 5-10 times, you know?
One of the big things I read is that they completely switched up the fight with the Krauser.
Which one's Krauser?
The military dude. Your first battle with him is all strictly a knife fight. You know, you hit R1, L1 at the same time to block it. And
I don't remember it.
And then the second one, like, you're outside like some catacombs. He's on one side, you're on the other, and, you know, shooting each other back and forth. And
no, I don't remember. And that's good, because that means when I go through this playthrough I'm about to start, you know, it'll be fresh. It'll be whatever.
Right.
I do remember a few things from that game, though. Like, I remember at one point where you're in some sort of open area, and there's a top level and a bottom level. And then two chainsaw mistresses come out. I think they're women in cloaks, and they have chainsaws, and they're incredibly difficult. I remember that being a son of a bitch.
I hated the chainsaw guys. And if you at the beginning, you find the wolf in the bear trap.
Yes.
If you save him, he helps you out during that battle.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I can remember it having a real good story. Like I remember late game, you have the guy. He's a big protagonist in the game. I don't remember much about him, but he seems to be about this tall. And he dresses real funny, and like the boss fight for him, he's inside of a giant mutated thing with all the arms, and you got to have like the rocket launcher, and when he opens up.
Yeah, the little guy dressed like in colonial times.
Yeah, and he talks weird. I can't remember
He's got a
his
high-pitched voice.
Now, a weird trajectory it did do is that it took Resident Evil down the action more than horror area, because you got to remember 5, and then 6 was just straight boo-boo action.
I hated 6. It was the worst Resident Evil in the series.
There you go. And then 7, they went back to that might be the best horror game ever.
Yeah,
and
7 was awesome.
I had read that before Resident Evil 8 came out, that the creators had said they purposely didn't make it as scary because a lot of people would not play Resident Evil 7. They'd see stuff online or they'd play like through the demo or whatever, and they're like, no, it's too much. It's too fucking scary. We're not doing it. So they took a step back. It's almost like between 3 to 4, or you could even say from 2 to 4, where it was horror-based with action, and then with 4, it went more action with a little bit of horror. Then we corrected back to Resident Evil 7, super scary, and now it seems like they're doing the overcorrection again with 8, and who knows what'll happen with 9.
Yeah, it's to me, like, just, and the setup and everything in 8, it seems like they took 4 and 7 and just kind of mashed it together.
And yeah, Resident Evil is one of the longest running franchises that's been just entirely awesome. As long as you take 6 out and you take the shooters out. Those arcade shooters where all you have is like the reticle.
Oh, yeah. I think those are on the Wii. They had a couple on the Wii, like the Umbrella Chronicles.
They had one on PlayStation.
Yeah, Resident Evil Survivor.
Where you had like infinite ammo and you just had to like put your gun down. It was like arcade type stuff. But you got to remember, not only do we have the numbered Resident Evils, we have Code Veronica, we got Revelations, Revelations 2, which I think Revelations 2, if I'm remembering the 2 correctly, is one of the best Resident Evil games, period. Resident Evil 0.
Oh, yeah.
So you got the prequel. And that's what's strange. When they did the remake of Resident Evil 1, no one seemed to care, right? This was probably like 2018 or 16 or something.
Yeah, it is good, but it doesn't compare to like the remake of 2 and 3.
Maybe not, but I thought it was great. I saw it on the store and I was like, how did I not see promo for this? And then when the 2 remake came out, everybody jumped through their tits and was like, oh, I love Resident Evil. We better get this. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 was great. But a lot of people were disappointed in the 3rd remake due to the short length of it.
Yeah, it was short. I mean, it was a good game, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think,
but the original was about the same length. It wasn't any longer, any shorter than
I think you made it through in like 5 hours or something, didn't you?
Yeah, and then I went back and played the original, and same thing. It had it beat in like 4 or 5 hours.
Now, here's something fun that I think's happening. Okay, so Resident Evil 4 got a VR, I won't even call it a remake, just a VR mode of the original for the Quest. And that's exclusive, meaning that VR can't come over to PlayStation VR for the original Resident Evil. However, that contractual agreement did not include a remake. So PlayStation's being sneaky, and they made the remake, and then they're putting out a VR version of the remake, which is going to completely kill the Quest most popular, best-selling game with their own VR unit. That had to have been strategical. So PlayStation's being little sneaky snakes. But I'm all for it. But yeah, I mean, we just have to take a second to acknowledge the impact that Resident Evil 4 original made on the gaming industry, and still how games are being made today was based on that blueprint. I think that's awesome. Now, I haven't played the remake yet. It just came out. I will get to it soon, and I'm sure it's going to be great. But I think for anyone who's an old Resident Evil head, everything we have said today will ring true. Non-apologetic news.